Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fate's Wide Wheel. I am your host, Sam Fain, and I am here today to talk about Golden Swallow. This is a 1968 Shaw Brothers film directed by Chang Cha, starring Lo Lie, Cheng Pei Pei, and of course, Jimmy Wang Yu. This film is sort of a quasi-sequel to Come Drink With Me. I say quasi-sequel because it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Come Drink With Me, except for the titular character portrayed by Cheng Pei Pei. And there is indeed some conversation as to whether or not it actually is the same character. This is even a theory that is espoused by the actor and the director themselves, which we learned from one of the special features on this Blu-ray. So let's get right to the technical merits of the Blu-ray. First of all, the picture looks fantastic. I think that this is just a beautiful film. It's so incredibly well shot, well directed. The location shots in particular just look incredible. This isn't Ultra HD. It's not 4K, so you're not going to have that same, quality that you're expecting from, the 4K of Come Drink With Me, for instance. However, that said, even on an Ultra HD, or excuse me, even on a high definition Blu-ray presentation, I have to say that it acquits itself incredibly well, and it's well worth your viewing in the best format possible, because I think that there's some scenes that really pay off just with the quality of the picture alone. Sound is fine. With a lot of these films, we talked about it before, because sound was not recorded live on the set, everything is done afterwards. It's not as essential here. You want to have clear sound, obviously, and there's going to be defects just due to the recording process, and some of those do come through. There's some crackles here. There's, a little bit of, high end that doesn't quite hit smoothly, shall we say, as the rest of it. But overall, I think that unless you have any quibbles with the original source material itself, there's some softer shots, there's some out of focus shots, there's again some audio distortions here or there. I think that what we're getting is the best presentation of the film as it was made. And I think ultimately that's anything we're looking for when we get physical media. Color grading is something that people have talked about for a long time, and that's a whole other conversation, a digression for other films out there. But I will say that in general, with what we're seeing with these Shaw Brothers films and these restorations that have taken place and these upgrades to high definition, is that they look fantastic. They're just a lot of love and care that goes into it, and we're getting the best possible presentation of these films as they were made, which again is really all you can ask for. So it looks great. Special features: we get an audio commentary recorded with Gilbert Poe. Now, I have to be completely honest, I thought it was a fine commentary. I think Gilbert did a good job, but it wasn't like I have to listen to this. There's some dead spots. It's kind of there. He paints with a very broad brush at times. There's not a lot of specificity. And when he's talking about the film, it's an experience that if you like having that person kind of sitting next to you every once in a while, dropping in little pieces about like, hey, look at this, or did you know this about the studio? It works, right? But if you're looking for a really super informative track to view after you've seen the film, to maybe even, listen to while you're, doing something else, right? Like I paint miniatures, that's something that I do as a hobby. And some of these audio commentaries are fun to kind of put on, while I'm painting or whatever. And there's just so much. There's such a wealth of information. It's like listening to some of the more informative podcasts that are out there that cover television shows. Sorry, that was for the old watchers and listeners to this show. Anyway, so yeah, I think that that there's the super informative, constant conversation that we can get from somebody like Frank Chang or James Mudge. But in this case, like again, it's fine, but I do think that it's a little lacking compared to some of those others. But comparison's the death of joy, so what do I know? Then we also get an interview with Cheng Pei Pei by Frederick Ambrosine, and I think that this interview is lovely. It's always great to hear from her. She is incredibly lively, incredibly authentic, clearly has a very clear memory of some of these things. She talks a little bit about the very beginning of her career. She talks specifically about this film, about working with Lo Lie, about working with Chang Che in particular. There's some really great information, including that little tidbit that I mentioned about how Cheng Che kind of explained it to her, because she was very resistant to portraying the character again. She felt it was very much King Hugh's character, because he's the one that had directed Come Drink with Me. She felt very much like, why do we need to make a sequel to this film? What does this do for us? What does this do for the character? This doesn't feel as much like that character. And he kind of, equated it to the idea of like, well, Golden Swallow's an alias. So I'm not saying it's not the same character. I'm not even saying that Cheng Pei Pei comes right out and says, no, it's not the same character. It's just someone using the alias. Because there are a lot of common things about the character, obviously, even beyond the alias and the use of the Golden Swallow daggers. But I do think that it's interesting to look at it in that light, considering that the film is so very different from Come Drink with Me in a lot of ways. So anyway, it's a great piece. Clocks in at about, I think, about 14 minutes or so. And, having now seen a number of interviews with her, some of them conducted by Frederick Ambrosine, and from different portions of her career throughout, like, basically from about 2000-ish up until, honestly not too long before she passed away. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it's really great to see, because she's someone I think that deserves to have told bits of her own story. And so the fact that these are accessible to us through the physical media format is really cool to see, because she's an incredible star. Speaking of incredible stars, let's talk a little bit about the film. So look, this movie is called Golden Swallow. Cheng Pei Pei is in the film. She's coming off the heels of Come Drink with Me, which is just a massive film, an incredible film, one of my favorite movies. And the star of this movie is Jimmy Wong Yu. I mean, Jimmy Wong Yu in this movie is he's amazing. He's a badass. He's stoic. He's holding so much in. He's out for this quest for revenge. This quest to find this lost love. His methods for doing so are a little iffy. But I mean, he is this anti-hero in so many ways, and I feel like the character propels the film forward, and his portrayal of the character is incredibly strong. The fight scenes are directed and choreographed and then acted with such vigor and such kinetic fury that boy, I mean, this movie takes a toll in a lot of ways. They spared no expense on the fake blood for this one. It reaches Grand Guignol levels of madness at times with the violence and the gore in this film. Maybe not that extreme for modern audiences, perhaps, with some of the stuff that we've seen, but boy, there's a lot to this one. And he's just incredible in the movie. I think that, coming off of One Armed Swordsman, which, Cheng Chai had also directed the year prior, and of course, The Assassin, and now being, in this new role as the Silver Rock. I think that I don't know, he is just really great at what he does, and he is a star. He is magnetic, he is charismatic, he has that it factor. And then you throw in Lo Lie in this movie as well, which is interesting, because Cheng Pei Pei, excuse me, says that she told Cheng Che that she didn't want Yuan Hua, who played the drunken master in Come Drink with Me, to be in this film, because she wanted it to be something different, set apart from Come Drink with Me. So Lo Lie gets into the role that we probably would have seen Yuan Hua in, which is too bad in a way, because I thought that Yuan Hua was so good in Come Drink with Me, but Lo Lie is great here as well. And the love triangle, the romantic tension, the melodrama, all of it just feeds into quite a big film. Now, it's not a perfect film. There are some slower spots. There are some moments of plotting that I think some viewers might find dubious. I followed the film fine. I didn't have any issues with it, but I could understand how maybe some folks would be like, wait, what's happening here? Why is this here? Who are all of these people? Ultimately, the main thing to understand when you go into this film is guy seeking revenge, haunted by lost love, hoping to maybe draw her out and, bring her to him by going on this bloody rampage of vengeance. What's the plan after that? Who knows, right? He just wants to be the greatest swordsman ever. He wants to be the invincible, just instrument of vengeance on the world. Is there ever a chance of the Silver Rock and the Golden Swallow settling down? Who knows, right? Spoiler alert, no. But I think that there's some really wonderful filmmaking here. There's, this incredible opening sequence that, some things are obscured. It's like this exercise in what we cannot see, things being broken and separated. And I think that the film, it sets up the film perfectly for that, right? Because there's these cases of mistaken identity. There's these cases of people not being able to connect and not being able to see. It's a really, really cool effect, and it's done very, very well. And I think that there's a lot of nuance to this film that could get a little lost in the shuffle of all the bloodletting and action scenes, which are incredible. And Cheng Chia is, I mean, honestly, operating like not quite at the height of his powers. Certainly, he would create films later on that I think are more well known, but man, just some incredible stuff. And he's on the record, even the director's on the record, is saying this is like his first favorite film of his. And I get it, because I think that there is so much to love about the movie. There's some incredibly wonderful, like sultry kind of romantic scenes that feel very sensual in a lot of ways. We get an homage to Cheng Pei Pei, Golden Swallow's cross dressing from the first film, from Come Drink with Me, into this film as well. And then when she lets her hair down, and it's funny because she doesn't take clothing off; she actually puts clothing on. And I thought that was a really, really interesting moment, to see this very sensual moment revealing, that she's a woman. Revealing might be too strong a word, because Silver Rock already knows that it's her, but like, putting her hair down and then actually putting clothing on as opposed to taking it off. And it was still a very sexy moment, it was still a very beautiful moment. And I think that there's something to be said for that. And again, just the nuance of the relationships of these characters, the idea that, much like a Hitchcock film, right? You never see anything beyond maybe a kiss, but in this film, right, that there are a couple of moments where characters are together. One lays down in the bed, and then we cut, and then we see another character getting out of bed, and it tells you what you need to know, right? So just great, strong filmmaking across the board. It definitely sits within that wuxia tradition, although the fantastic elements are kind of on short supply. We get some of them, in the kind of the final act of the film, which again is fairly traditional for a film of this nature. Although there are wuxia films out there where we see some of those fantastic elements like right away, just to establish that tone. There are films that kind of save it for the very end, like Come Drink with Me did. So again, this is a great example of the genre, a great example of where the genre was in 1968 in particular. There's a lot about the way that it's been moved forward by Come Drink with Me, by One-Armed Swordsman, by Thundering Sword even. And so, now seeing these stars, these three stars. It's funny, I recently just talked about Once a Thief, the John Woo film, and the trio of big, huge stars for that film in 1991. Well, in 1968, you were hard pressed to find three bigger stars from Shaw Brothers than Lo Lie, Cheng Pei Pei, and Jimmy Wong Yu. So I mean, it's kind of an interesting parallel, which has nothing to do with this film or that film, other than the fact that I just recently talked about it. But I think that their star power definitely shines through. There's some great scenes of confrontation between the three of them. Again, the melodrama is definitely high, but I feel like the film is mostly propulsive enough that it doesn't drag things down too much. There are three moments where I felt like the film it could have used just a little bit of a shot in the arm, which might seem like a lot in a film that's only an hour and 49 minutes long, but they're brief enough. They're not the type of thing that you just feel like, when is this going to end? It's just like the momentum kind of stops, and then it starts again. And I feel like in a film that is only, 109 minutes, that moments like that to me don't seem as necessary as, say, in a film that might be 2.5 hours long or 3 hours long, right? So it was interesting that happened. But then again, there's some really amazing stuff in here. There's some some very kinetic camera work. There's some very frenetic action that is still very easy to follow, incredibly well choreographed, beautiful location work, some wonderful work in the studios as well. Some, beautiful moments in the end. You've got this incredible painting of the mountains in the back, which, obviously you can tell it's a painting at second glance. First glance, you might be fooled that it's like some sort of, photo backdrop or something like that. But it's still just gorgeous. And it's just gorgeous filmmaking. It's inventive filmmaking. And I always appreciate that. Again, it's a pretty bloody film. It's a pretty violent film. Depending on where you're at right now, maybe that's not for you. And I completely understand that, because world we live in, do we really need that? And I didn't know that I would want that or need that either, but I'm enjoying watching the film all the same. It's a bit of escapism. It's a bit of, just fantastical sword play. Again, a little bit gorier than I was expecting. The film is definitely a little bit more violent than I was expecting. Pretty high body count, but still a beautiful film, and one I think that is worth watching. I will say, when it comes right down to it, where is this one going to sit, right? Like, I'm actually building a tier list, because, hey, it's the internet in 2026, and, that's what we do, tier lists every day, all day. And so I am building a tier list, and I'm not sure where I'm going to put this one yet. It's not S tier, right? It's not Come Drink With Me, clearly, right? But is it A? Maybe. It's definitely B. It is definitely B tier, which to me says, hey, this is worth a watch. Is it one that I'm going to revisit a lot? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Whereas I could see, like right now, if I'm looking at The Assassin, Thundering Sword, and Golden Swallow, I'm probably revisiting The Assassin before I revisit the two of these. And that is in part just because The Assassin, there was something about that movie that I was drawn to a little bit more, in spite of it not being the action-packed, wild film that this one is. I think that the first 20 to 30 minutes or so of The Assassin really drew me in and invested me in the characters so strongly that I wanted to see it finish. I wanted to see the payoff. The Thundering Sword has some stuff that's pretty good, but ultimately I feel like it's a rainy Saturday afternoon watch when you just want to tune out and there's nothing better on, that sort of thing, right? Golden Swallow, however, feels like one of those movies that I hesitate to say this because this is not work by any means, but I do wonder if I will enjoy it more when I'm not watching it to talk about it, if that makes sense. And I don't know that I would. I don't know that the experience would be any different for me. But again, in this instance, it was like there were other movies that were on my watch list, but I was like, no, I got to get to Golden Swallow because I want to get this video out, right? And that's a very interesting thing to talk about in the context of watching movies and talking about them for this YouTube channel, right? Because it's always supposed to be fun and enjoyable, and it is. And I'm not trying to say that I felt obligated to do it or anything like that. I wanted to do it. But it makes me pose the question, will I enjoy it more on a rewatch because I'm watching it, because it's at the top of my list and I really want to just throw this one in? Or, did I get what I wanted out of it in watching it because I wanted to do it for the channel? Neither here nor there. Who knows if I'm even going to leave this part in the video? I probably will. I don't edit heavily. Anyway, so there you have it. There's my thoughts on Shaw Brothers Classics, Volume 1, Film Number 3, Golden Swallow, starring Lo Lieh, Cheng Pei Pei, and Jimmy Wong Yu, directed by the great Chung Che. Worth checking out. Again, this box set, as it unfolds, it continues to be one that I am greatly appreciating, and I'm so glad is on my shelf. I'm so glad that all of them are on my shelf. And there are films in these boxes that I've seen before. There's a lot of them that I haven't, and I'm really looking forward to getting through those and digging in a little bit more and continuing this journey, learning about these films, learning about these people behind the films. I'm always been fascinated by that aspect of it, and it's just been fun. And when wuxia films are something that I'm enjoying, and they do feel a little bit like brain candy right now, although there's certainly an emotional attraction to them as well, that there's an emotional content to it as well, and there's an artistry behind this that I also find fascinating and I'm appreciating and really enjoying. And just kind of in that imagination state, getting into and thinking like, how would you apply something like that today? How would you work that today? Is there a way to bring more of that feeling back into what we see today? How do we maybe, adjust and pivot away from, so much of the CG and overproduced stuff, and get down to, to basics again in some ways. And I think that there's definitely something to be said for that. So anyway, that's really all I have to say about this film. Oh, I will add real quick that the interview with Cheng Pei Pei from Frederick Ampersine is actually not advertised on the back of the case. So it was kind of a surprise bonus feature. I thought there was just the audio commentary. I popped it in, looked at the bonus features, like, oh, there's an interview with Cheng Pei Pei. This is awesome. I'm gonna, definitely check that out. So it's kind of neat to see. It was a surprise. I'm not quite sure why it didn't make the back of the case, but I'm not complaining by any stretch. So I'm going to get out of here. This is supposed to be a quick kick after all. I have a lot of films that are sitting next to me that I will definitely be watching soon. I'm probably going to switch things up just a little bit for the next one. So stay tuned for that. Of course, there's some new releases coming in soon, some big new releases with lots of cool, awesome special features on them. That I'm sure I'll do some unboxings for and check some stuff out. Let's see, do I have anything that I can like kind of just show off real quick? Maybe something new. Oh yeah. So here's something new that came in. I heard about this from George Clark over on Invincible Asia, which if you're enjoying these videos at all and you have not seen any of George's stuff, you should definitely go check out Invincible Asia. Awesome channel. His work is superb. If you go over there, you might not come back here. I understand. It's okay. But this is a film that he reviewed not that long ago, and I thought, oh, I'm going to check this out. So I'll definitely talk about this. This will definitely be a quick kick, though. It's On the Run, starring Yoon Biao, which he is one of the trio with Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, and really looking forward to seeing this because it looks like something that I've not really I haven't dived into too much. So I'm looking forward to that. And, he's an actor that I'm not as familiar with, that I pretty much am only familiar with in, his work with Jackie Chan. So seeing him on his own, and I've heard really good things about this. And there's some really cool special features on here, including a couple audio commentaries. One with our friend Frank Cheng. He's not my friend. I don't know him, but if I did, I imagine I would be friendly with him because he seems like a really cool guy, and is as loquacious as I am. So that's always fun. There's some other stuff over here, some other things that I'm not gonna dive off camera to show them off right now. Oh wait, no, there is one. So as I talked about with JJ Lindell not too long ago, I am unfortunately not collecting the UK releases of these. I've just been collecting the North American releases. So even though this is old for UK folks, for North American folks, that's right, season 2, as they're calling it, of the Tom Baker years here for Doctor Who hit Blu-ray in North America. I'm super excited about this, and this is going to tie into a project that hopefully JJ is going to come along with me for, because we'll be diving into some of this stuff in hopefully future chats. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, there you have it. That was the not so quick kick for the Golden Swallow, and I really look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you so much for following, liking, subscribing. It really helps support the page. The page? Is it a page? I don't know. I'm not very good at this sometimes. I just like getting on here and talking, being a little creative, sharing a little bit with a growing community, being a small voice in a chorus of many. And there are some really, really awesome voices out there. And like I mentioned, George over at Invincible Asia is certainly one of my favorite voices when it comes to talking about these films, Hong Kong films, Asian films in general. So definitely check him out. But there'll be a lot more here on Fate's Wide Wheel. Thank you so much again for all of your support. Hit that like and subscribe button, turn those notifications on, help the channel out. And I will be back very soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, stay safe out there, and always, always leap responsibly.